Here now with reaction, Alabama Senator Katie Britt. Senator Britt, before I ask you a question, let me introduce you to the viewers as the first woman to ever represent Alabama in the United States Senate, the youngest Republican woman ever elected to the United States Senate in our nation's history, and of the 25 current female senators, the only one with school-age children. Well, when you're not making legislation and making history, I know you're making school lunches. Thanks for joining us today, Senator Britt. So two big crises, the looming debt crises. Let's start with that first. Speaker McCarthy caught the White House flat-footed by passing a bill that actually reduced spending. Joe Biden's out there calling everybody MAGA Republicans, and I think Speaker McCarthy called his bluff and has been willing to go back to the White House and deal. What can we expect from the Senate? What's your message to Leader McConnell and Leader Schumer and the White House?
Well, Kellyanne, thank you so much for having me on, and you're exactly right. I am actually at a track meet for my daughter as we speak. But the American people deserve accountability. I am so appreciative of Speaker McCarthy's leadership and believe that Joe Biden needs to be responsible and come to the table. Americans are sick of reckless spending. We are sick of increased deficits. We want people to make sure that they use our taxpayer dollars wisely and that we don't put this burden on the backs of our children and our children's children. Kellyanne, it is not only fiscally irresponsible, it is morally irresponsible.
That is so well said. And let's turn over to another crisis at the southern border. Title 42 set to expire this week on Thursday. Senator Britt, and I know there are even Democrats in your caucus who are incredibly concerned about this. We all know what we see, not what the White House says, and we like to believe that. I want to go back to President Obama's Secretary of Homeland Security, Jay Johnson. He famously said when they had 1,000 crossings a day that was devastating to the system, too impossible to handle. When I was in the Trump White House, it was about 4,000 a day. Now Governor Abbott of Texas says that when Title 42 expires, we can expect up to 13,000 crossings per day. We can't get Alejandro Mayorkas, the current DHS secretary, to even call this a crisis. Why should we care about Title 42? What do you expect to happen? And can we actually get some Democrats on board with all the Republicans to do something before Thursday?
Absolutely. It is time for Democrats to come to the table and stop trying to stump for President Biden's reelect. The truth is, Biden knew exactly what was coming. He said he was ending Title 42 on January 26th, but yet when he came out with his own budget on March 9th, he failed to fund this properly. In fact, he actually gave a decrease of 1% to the Department of Homeland Security, inadequately allowing us to combat fentanyl, to secure our borders, and to strongly enforce our existing immigration laws. It is totally and completely irresponsible. Under Joe Biden, we have seen it be open season for drug cartels, for human traffickers, and for terrorists. It's time for us to secure the border and put the American people first. I am proud to have supported, actually put forth 3 pieces of legislation to combat this, co-sponsored 11. It's time to get to work. The American people deserve better.
Senator Britt, you have visited the southern border, as have I, and there's nothing quite like being there to really understand the gravity and the consequences of all these weighty issues. Kamala Harris, the so-called border czar, some days the vice president, she spent a little bit of time there one time. But I can't help but think that if you aren't serious about an issue, you won't literally show up and speak up and put up. It's no mistake, I think, no surprise that the worst approval rating Joe Biden has on any one issue right now is border security. And you mentioned fentanyl, now the #1 killer of 18 to 45-year-olds in our nation, an indiscriminate crisis. Do you find that if you talk about border security, some of your Democratic colleagues, as opposed to immigration, you get more folks along with that? I mean, what are we to expect with 6 million people already here over the Biden administration? That is higher than the population in 31 states in this country. So what do you think? How do you think we can win? How do you think we can win independents and not Democrats on this issue?
Well, first off, you're exactly correct. We cannot allow the issues of immigration and border security to be conflated. Surely we can all agree that our country deserves a secure border. Just to your point earlier about the influx in numbers, I mean, by the Biden administration's own admission, we will have over 12,000 plus coming across the border each and every day. When you look at fentanyl, Americans are saying enough is enough. We are seeing this infiltrate our communities, our schools, our homes. Americans want answers. They want leaders to step up to the plate and create real solutions. I know that Joe Biden believes in walls because Kellyanne, he has built one around his home in Delaware. And so making sure that we build wall, we make sure that we secure our border. We make sure that we put policies in place that put Americans first and not continue to let Joe Biden's failed leadership put our country at a detriment.
You make perfect sense when you speak about these very weighty issues. Senator Katie Britt of Alabama, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for your service.
Hey, and Kellyanne, thank you for having us. And we have to make sure people know it is a true humanitarian crisis and a national security crisis, and Americans deserve answers.
Yes, thank you, Senator Britt.